Around 11,700 years ago, the world did something extremely suspicious. It warmed up. The giant ice sheets began to melt. Forests spread north. Sea levels rose, animals moved. Humans looked around at all this newly available mud, and in one of history's most consequential decisions, said, "What if we put seeds in it?" And that, more or less, is how you get farms, villages, cities, tax collectors, traffic, podcasts, and eventually someone inventing a chair that costs $900 because it is ergonomic. But what if that warming never happened? What if the last glacial period just kept going? Same planet, same humans, same big dreams, but the ice never leaves. First, a tiny correction before someone starts typing furiously. Technically, Earth is still in an ice age because we still have ice sheets in Greenland and Antarctica. But, you know what we mean. What if the cold part never ended? What if the world stayed locked in the kind of climate that covered Canada, in ice, buried northern Europe under glaciers, lowered sea levels by more than 100 meters, and made going outside feel like a personal attack? Let's find out. The first thing that changes is the map. Not a little. Not, oh, the borders are different. The map is drunk. Canada is basically an ice cube with opinions. Much of the northern United States is crushed under a sheet of ice so heavy it pushes the land down. New York is either buried, frozen, or extremely unavailable. Scandinavia is gone under glaciers. Northern Europe is colder, emptier, and dramatically less interested in outdoor dining. The coastlines are completely different too. Because so much water is trapped in ice, sea levels stay much lower. Places that are underwater today become dry land. Britain is connected to Europe. Alaska is connected to Siberia. Southeast Asia has giant exposed plains where there are now seas. Humanity does not inherit the world we know. It inherits a larger, colder, windier, meaner one. And this matters because civilization is not just a thing humans invented out of raw genius. Civilization needed timing. It needed warmth. It needed stable seasons. It needed rivers that behaved themselves. It needed plants that could be bullied into becoming crops. In our timeline, the end of the last glacial period gave humans a strange gift: predictable weather. Not perfect weather. Obviously not. People still invented rain. But predictable enough. You could plant wheat and have some confidence that wheat would happen. You could stay in one place long enough to build storage pits, walls, shrines, granaries, and eventually a guy whose whole job is to stand next to the grain and say, "Actually, some of this belongs to the king." In the frozen timeline, that is much harder. Farming does not disappear completely. Humans are annoying like that. We keep trying. But agriculture is delayed, smaller, and much more regional. The best places are the warmer refuges, parts of Africa, the Middle East, South Asia, southern China, tropical coasts, sheltered valleys, and river systems that are not spending half the year pretending to be stone. The Fertile Crescent might still matter, but it is colder and more fragile. Crops are less reliable, growing seasons are shorter. One bad year can wreck everything, and that means villages stay smaller for longer. No giant farming boom, no quick explosion of cities, no easy surplus. No surplus means fewer specialists, fewer builders, fewer scribes, fewer armies, fewer kings with hats so large they become a form of government. History slows down. Not because humans are less intelligent, because the planet is less cooperative, and this is the part we forget. Homo sapiens did not defeat nature and then build civilization as a trophy. We negotiated with nature. Badly most of the time. But still. In the ice world, the negotiation is brutal. Food is the center of everything. Mammoths may survive longer. Woolly rhinos too, maybe. Reindeer, bison, horses, cold-adapted animals become the foundation of entire cultures. Instead of wheat empires, you get migration empires. Seasonal routes, hunting corridors, bone houses, fur economies, ice roads. The most powerful person in your village is not the richest landowner. It is the person who knows where the herds will be 2 weeks from now. That person gets respect. That person gets the best seat by the fire. That person definitely gets asked to speak at weddings. Dogs become even more important, not just pets, partners, guards, sled teams, hunting companions. Tiny, warm, emotional support wolves that also help you not die. The invention of the sled becomes one of the great technologies of civilization. In our world, wheels changed everything. In this world, runners on ice might matter just as much. Imagine ancient trade routes not as dusty roads but frozen highways. Salt, hides, obsidian, amber, dried meat, carved bone, stories, songs, gossip, all of it moving across ice and tundra. The first great cities might not look like our cities. They might be built around geothermal vents, hot springs, sheltered cliffs, cave systems, and river mouths that do not freeze completely. A city is not just where food is. A city is where warmth is. Control the warmth, control the world. Which means politics gets weird fast. In our timeline, kingdoms fought over farmland, rivers, ports, and trade routes. In the ice timeline, they fight over heat. Hot springs become sacred, volcanic regions become strategic, forests become national treasures because wood is not just wood. Wood is fire, tools, shelter, survival. A forest is basically an oil field with leaves. Deforestation becomes one of the earliest political crises, not because people are thinking about carbon emissions yet, but because everyone needs fuel. If your town burns through all the nearby trees, congratulations. You have invented moving or freezing. Architecture changes too. Forget bright marble temples on sunny hills. Think low buildings, thick walls, underground rooms, animal hide insulation, smoke vents, shared sleeping halls, and public firehouses. Privacy is a luxury invented by people who are not trying to survive February. Homes are smaller, communities are tighter. Everyone knows everyone else's business because everyone is literally in the same room trying to stay warm. This has social consequences. On the one hand, strong community bonds, shared labor, shared childcare, deep oral traditions, rituals around fire, food, death, and returning herds. On the other hand, if someone is annoying, you cannot just take a walk. The walk is outside. Outside is trying to kill you. So humanity develops a very advanced tradition of quiet resentment. Clothing becomes culture in a much bigger way. In our world, fashion eventually becomes self-expression. In this world, fashion starts as not dying. Fur layers, stitched boots, bone needles, waterproof hides, snow goggles, face coverings. The first celebrity designers are people who can make a coat that does not let wind enter your soul. A bad shoe is not uncomfortable. A bad shoe is a medical emergency. Art survives, of course. It always does. Maybe it becomes even more important. In long winters, humans tell stories. They carve animals into bone. They paint caves. They sing. They remember roots, ancestors, disasters, and jokes that were probably funnier if you had been there. The ice world is harsh, but it is not empty. It is full of firelight, full of people leaning close together, telling the same story for the 100th time because outside the wind is screaming and inside someone has to explain why the moon follows you. But technology develops differently. Metallurgy is harder in some regions because settlements are scattered and fuel is precious. Writing may arrive later because writing usually loves bureaucracy, and bureaucracy loves grain, and grain is being dramatic. You still get records, but maybe not first on clay tablets from grain states. Maybe early writing develops as route marks, herd counts, debt notches, winter stores, marriage agreements, warnings, and maps. Less, the king owns this field. More, do not cross this pass after the third moon unless you enjoy becoming part of the landscape. Empires are harder to build. Cold punishes scale. Armies need food, horses need grass, roads need maintenance, supply lines need mercy from the weather, and the weather has none. So the world may stay politically fragmented for much longer. Lots of small, tough societies, alliances by marriage and trade, seasonal councils, sacred meeting grounds, long-distance networks, but fewer giant centralized states. That does not mean peaceful. Humans are still humans. We can start a fight in a paradise, but warfare is more expensive. Invading someone across frozen wasteland is the kind of idea that gets proposed by a young prince and then quietly ignored by everyone who has ever packed a sled. By the modern era, if a modern era happens, the world looks nothing like ours. The population is probably much smaller. Most people live in belts of relative warmth. Africa, South Asia, parts of the Middle East, Central and South America, Southeast Asia, and ice-free coastal refuges become the centers of power. The global north is not the rich industrial core we know. It is frontier, glacier, tundra, mineral zone, migration land, and occasionally a place where very intense people build research stations and say things like, "The cold builds character," while visibly suffering. Industrialization may still happen, but later and differently. Coal becomes incredibly important. So does peat. So does whale oil in coastal regions. So do geothermal systems. The first industrial cities might grow where fuel, shelter, and transport overlap. Fire inside metal, pushing back against a frozen planet. Railways become miracles. Heated rail tunnels become wonders of the world. Icebreakers are not niche ships. They are civilization's teeth. And then comes the strangest part. If humans industrialize in a world that is still glacial, climate change becomes politically confusing. In our timeline, warming is a crisis because our civilization was built for the Holocene, a stable warm period. In this timeline, warming might first look like salvation. The ice retreats a little. Growing seasons lengthen. New land opens. Starvation drops. Northern routes become possible. People celebrate. For a while. Then the old problem arrives wearing a different coat. Sea levels rise. Ice roads vanish. Coastal settlements flood. Permafrost collapses. Ancient hunting routes disappear. Cultures built around cold start losing the world that made them. The same warming that helps farmers hurts ice peoples. The same thaw that opens ports destroys homes. There is no simple version of climate, only people discovering that every world is someone's home. And maybe that is the emotional center of the story. Because if the Ice Age never ended, humans would still be humans. We would still make tools, still make songs, still argue, still fall in love with people from the wrong valley, still invent sports that are mostly excuses to compare regional pride, still tell children that everything will be fine while secretly checking how much food is left. We would adapt, because that is what we do. But we would not become the same civilization. No easy agricultural explosion. No same cities. No same empires. No same borders. Maybe no Rome. No London. No New York. No Canada as we know it. No entire modern world arranged around the accident of a warmer planet. Because that is the uncomfortable truth. History did not happen only because humans were clever. History happened because the world thawed. The ice pulled back just enough. The rains came in patterns just stable enough. The grasses became grain just obedient enough. The rivers flooded just predictably enough. And humans who had spent tens of thousands of years surviving finally got the chance to stay, to plant, to store, to build, to become dangerous in new and exciting ways. So if the Ice Age never ended, maybe we would still be here, around fires, under hides, inside low warm rooms, trading across frozen plains, singing to children while the wind pressed against the walls. Still brilliant, still ridiculous, still us, just colder, much, much colder. And somewhere, in a council hall built beside a hot spring, someone would still be complaining that young people today do not respect tradition. Because some things are stronger than ice. Good night.